So for this task, we implement a class name building, and this class is going to have one attribute which is square feet. This square attribute is going to be a number, and it should be stored in an underscore attribute version. And then we should implement a getter for it for the attribute. And then inside this class, okay, the building class should be abstract class or the base class. Then which means this means that the purpose of this building class is to be the base class, that is every other class is going to inherit or extend from it. And then every other class that inherits from it should have a method called evacuation warning message. And then if the class that inherits or extends from it doesn't have this method, we are going to throw an error. So let's do this. So I've already created the class and exported it as default, and then the attribute which is square feet, I set a getter and then a setter. Here I'm checking to ensure that the value that is coming in shouldn't be undefined, and here that the value is not a string and that the value is a positive number. Then here that is not an infinite number. Then for this part, this is where if what I'm doing here is checking if the building class is not exported. If we are running it directly, so we can do this, but if it's being exported or even if it's being used as a module, then this code is not going to run. So in this code, the building class is an abstract or base class for other classes to ensure that every class that inherits or extends from this class has a method called evacuation warning message. So what we are going to do to make this work is to put a check in the constructor, and this check is going to first check if the constructor that was called with the new keyword is not the building class itself, because we only want to ensure that every class that extends from building has the method. So in order to do this, we are going to use a property called new.target. So we're going to say new.target. So what this new.target does is check if a function is invoked with the new keyword. So we say if new.target is not equal to building, if new.target is not equal to building, meaning that if the constructor called is not the base class, that is if the constructor that is called is all the classes that is extends or inherits from the building, then we can do something, because our target is any class that extends the building class, which we know that the building class is the base or abstract class. So the next thing is to check if the class constructor that was called does not have a prototype method called evacuation warning message. That is if the method is undefined. So now we check that the method that is called is not the building, which is the base class itself. So we are going to check and new dot target dot prototype dot evacuation warning message. So we are going to check if it's undefined, meaning if any class that extends from this building class does not have a method that is called evacuation warning message. So if this is true, what we want to do is to throw we are going to throw an error with the message we're going to throw an error with this message. So we should bear in mind that we can only use this new.target inside the function constructors, and then it's not allowed in any arrow functions. So that is it for this. Okay, let me see if I should run this. Let me see. Okay, so we see that we threw the error because right here where we extended this test building class from building, we didn't create any evacuation message function, so that's why we got this error. Let's see. Let's run this again. So we see that we got the message class extends building must override evacuation warning message. Assuming that right here that we have this share the function. Now assuming that we have this function here, and then if we should run this code again, we see that we didn't get this error anymore. This error was not shown. Then for this, the 8th task, where to create a class named Hobarton School, and then the attributes size and location. Size is a number, location is a string, and each attribute must be stored in underscore. Then when the class is cast into a number, it should return the size, and then if the class is cast into a string, it should return the location. So here I've defined and exported the Hobarton class. Then I've made sure that the size will always be a number and the location will always be a string. Then down here, what I'm doing is I'm saying that if this code is not imported as a module, then we can do the following. That is, if the code is imported as a module, and then the code should not run. So to be able to modify what is returned when the class is typecast into a primitive type. A primitive type can be anything like string, number, big int, boolean, symbol, or undefined. So But for this task, we are interested in number and string, because if you can see right here, when the instance of this forwarding class is created, it has 12 and mezzanine, which is the attribute size and location. Okay, let's say mezzanine is the location, and here we are casting the object SC as a number, and then logging it to the console. The output is expected to be 12, because we are supposed to get the size if the object is cast as a number, and we're supposed to get the location, which is mezzanine, if the object is cast as a string. So to be able to achieve this same result, what we are going to do is we are going to be using a symbol called to primitive. So do it this way, to symbol dot to primitive. Then you can pass in value, you can pass in anything here, or you can call it hint, or whatever we wish to call it. So what is hint, or whatever we put in here, what you represent is the object or class that is being casted into any primitive data or primitive value. That is, if like here we are casting this instance as a number, so this hint is the number. Here we are casting it as a string, then this hint is a string. So inside this, what we are going to do is we are going to check if hint, which is if we are casting if this hint is a number, if the casting is a number, if it is a number, what do we want to do? We are told to return we are told to return size if the object or the class or the instance of this forwarding class is casted as a number. We are told to return the size. So similarly, we are going to check if it is casted as a string, then we are going to return the location. We're going to return the location. Then I think usually we're supposed to return give a return value, that is if we are not casting it to maybe any primitive value, but we're trying to conquer this task. So if I should save and run, for some reason this thing is slow. So if I should save and run, yeah, so we see we got 12 and mezzanine, because right here we cast it into a number and then we logged it out, and since when we cast it into a number, we expected to return the size, and here we see that the size is 12, so 12 is returned. And the second one, we cast it into a string, and when we cast it as a string, the location is expected to return, and we see that when creating the instance, that mezzanine is the location, and then here output is location, same as here. Now for this one, we are going to implement a class named car, and and these are the attributes: brand, motor, and color. Then they should be stored in underscore attribute version. And then fourth one, we are to add the method named clone car, and this method should return a new object of the class. So in here I've created the class car, and then the constructor and the parameters and the values. Then over here, like I've always been doing most of the time, I'm only saying that if this piece of code is not used is not imported as a module, you can run this, but if it's imported as a module, we are to do nothing. So we are going to create a method called clone car, as the name suggests, and it's going to be used to clone an instance of an object or a class. So to be able to implement the clone car method, or to clone or create another instance of a class or object, we are going to use the symbol.species property. So I'm going to say static get. So this symbol.species property is used in the context of creating new instances of a class. So it is used to determine the constructor to be used when creating new instances. So after creating the static method of symbol.species property, we are going to return this. So what this means is that the constructor to be used for creating a new instance should be the specific constructor that is calling the method. So let's continue. So we should also know that by default, the symbol.species property will be set to this class, to the current class car. What we are doing here is we are saying that if a class should extend or inherit from this car class, and if it uses the clone car method to create an instance, a new instance, so the new instance is not going to be of type the car class, is going to be of that specific class that is calling the clone car method. So next here we are going to create the clone car method. So to create this method, we are going to use the keywords new followed by this dot constructor. So first say const clone car is equal to new, and then we call this dot constructor, and then followed by the symbol.species that we just implemented. Symbol.species that we just implemented. So what this symbol.species is indicating here is that the constructor to be used should be the specific constructor that is calling the method. So, and then after doing this, next thing we do is to return clone car. So here, this dot constructor, what it is doing here is it looks up the symbol.species property as we it looks up the simple dot species property we define here to know which of the constructors to use for instance creation. So assuming we have okay, here down here we have a class test car that is extending from car. Now here we created an instance which is a new instance which is tc1, and now we are creating another instance tc2, but we are cloning this tc1, that is with all these attributes. So what's going to happen here, what we are saying here is, now that we've called this clone car with this tester class, we are saying that the instance is going to be of this test car, assuming that we didn't implement this symbol of species, and then we decide to call this method clone car. The instance of this new instance tc2 is going to be of the car class. But by doing this, so any class that extends from car and calls the clone car method, whatever new instance that is created from it is going to be of type test car. So in summary, if the symbol.species property is not explicitly defined in this code, then the constructor to be used would be the car class constructor. That is to say that all classes will be an instance of the car class, unless it is overridden in any class that extends from the car class. So let's run this. It should be what, 10. Okay. So for this one, we are to import the car class from this file, and then implement an EV car that extends the car class, and we create a constructor for this EV class called passing all this and called the super. And then so here what we are supposed to do here for this one is to override the clone car method. That is, remember that here what we are doing here is that whenever we call this clone car method, what we are doing is we are saying that whatever class that extends or inherits from this car class should be the type of the new object or instance that was created. So what we are supposed to do here is to find a way to override the symbol.species class, the symbol.species property, in such a way that whenever we create a new instance of this EV class, the new instance is going to be of type car. So to do this, what we are going to do is say we are going to have to override the symbol dot species property and then what we are going to do is to return car, so that this way, if here where we are creating an instance of this EV car that extends from car, here if we should log this, it's going to be an instance of EV car. And then here, when we call, we create another instance by calling the clone car. So what's going to happen here is that this clone car, this new instance is going to be of type car, since we've overridden the symbol does species method and make sure that the constructor that is going to be used to be creating a new instance when we are calling the clone car method, which we got from the inherited from the clone car method of car. What we are saying is that it's going to, whatever new instance that is created by calling this clone car is going to be of type car. So let's save and run. Okay. So here we see that first one here, when we created this new instance, is of type EV car, and then when we call the clone car method, since we've overridden it and we are saying that the constructor to be used for creating new instance should be of the car class, now we see that the type is of car. Yes, that's more accurate.